it, I get it.
This year is the biggest universe yet. It's almost 3 times bigger than any universe.
If I had to describe GitHub Universe with one word, I would say enriching.
It's Nerd Super Bowl.
The con candy machine, the different booths, the different games. It's just a holistic experience.
Demos and donuts.
The branding, the people here.
The effort that went into making it look good, it's beautiful. Like the artwork, the design.
Good morning. It's so great to be here with all of you.
We see a lot of these folks at conferences all around the world, but it's something about Universe, something magical happens.
I loved the keynote today because it really brought in a lot of the things that make GitHub so remarkable. It really made the developer experience front and center.
Universe is a great time to share nerdy things with nerddom.
There's a little video game station where you can get the bugs before they come into your code base. There was a really nice photo opportunity where they took moving photos of us.
All the tools that you hear about, all the interesting mainstream tools, they're all here. And I come here and then see the people working on it and then actually see the demos.
GitHub does care about and get developers and understands that there is more than one type of developer.
We've got everyone from around the world coming to just enjoy software.
With the remote GitHub MCP server, I can configure access to GitHub with just a couple lines of JSON. And when I start the server or enable the access, I'm prompted to authenticate just like I would be any other GitHub app. With the MCP server created and authentication already being handled, let's create a series of issues focused around improving the functionality of the app. I list off everything that I want to see inside the app, and I ask Copilot to expand upon these real quick bullet points, including adding in a checklist. Ensuring that agent mode is enabled, Copilot gets to work. When it goes to create that first issue, it prompts me to ensure that I do in fact want this created on the repo that I specified. I can review the JSON, make sure that everything looks good, and to streamline the process, I can enable the creation of all issues for this session, or while I'm talking to Copilot right here. In just a few moments, all of those issues are now created. If we open up the repository, we can see them all right here, and as we open one up, we see that full description and a checklist that has all been created from Copilot just from that one bullet point. This is one of my personal favorite features. It helps keep me in the zone that if I've got a great idea, I can use this as a real quick scratch pad and come back to that issue later. Speaking of coming back to issues, how about doing searches? I can do that using MCP and Copilot as well. I want to find all issues related to filtering and search. I describe what I want to a new session of Copilot just to remove all of that prior context, and Copilot uses the MCP server to call out to GitHub and give me that list of all issues that are related to searching and filtering. We can even use Copilot for a little bit of help with triaging. Let's ask Copilot to prioritize the issue that it thinks will provide the biggest value to the user while also being the easiest to implement. Copilot does the search, lists through all of those issues, and gives me its opinion. In this case, it's about adding in that filtering capability. Okay, fantastic. Let's let Copilot implement that functionality. We described to Copilot that we want to implement the code necessary for issue number 1. Agent mode gets to work on creating that code. Skipping ahead to the end, we see that Copilot is prompting for running a couple of last little tests locally. We'll let those run, and then we'll run all of our unit tests and end-to-end tests locally and manually like we always should before creating a pull request. Everything looks good to me, so let's ask Copilot to create that pull request. We'll ask Copilot to create a branch, to create the commit message, and to create the pull request for us. Copilot gets to work on exploring all of the changes that have been made, creates a rather thorough commit message, and then pushes that brand new branch up to GitHub. It then utilizes the MCP server to create the pull request. Just as before, we can review the JSON and then approve that command to be run to create the pull request on GitHub. Upon opening up the pull request, we see a full description of everything that has been accomplished. By utilizing the GitHub MCP server, we can access assets on our repositories right from the editor. We can take advantage of Copilot to create issues, triage issues, and even to create pull requests, helping to keep us in the zone and focused in on what's important.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Open Source Friday, the show where we talk to maintainers about the apps that they're maintaining. I'm Kedasha, and I'm so happy that you're here with me today. And I'm super excited, as always, about today's stream. I'm here with Benjamin from Cluecumber, and he's going to talk to us all about testing. Super excited to hear about the journey of Cluecumber. Hey, Benjamin, welcome to the stream.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Kedasha. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So thanks so much for joining us. Before we jump into Cluecumber, and yeah, I'm just going to jump right into the conversations because one thing I know about Open Source Friday is the time goes like this, especially when we're having fun. So tell me about yourself. Introduce yourself to us and tell us about your role at Trivago.
Yeah, sure. My name is Benjamin Bischoff. I've been in IT for about 25 years now, so I'm one of the older people in IT. I started as a developer for the first 15 years, and then I transitioned slowly into test automation and QA. But I'm still an automation engineer with a super strong focus on development and coding and solving problems. So I basically take all the things that I learned as a developer and expand on them in the QA field.
Nice. I love that. I mean, being a developer probably gives you an edge as a QA engineer, right? Or no?
Yeah, in a way, yes, because I do understand the development perspective maybe a little more than other people that jump straight into QA. However, I have a lot to learn about testing still. So it's a two-way thing. So I learn a lot about QA and testing, and the QA engineers can learn a thing or two from me, maybe about development.
Nice, nice. So I guess tell us about Cluecumber now. What sparked the idea? How did this come about?
Well, Cluecumber is a project that is a library for JVM and Maven. It comes in two flavors, and it generates test reports from Gherkin. Not specifically Gherkin, but the JSON files that are written by Cucumber. That's why it's called Cluecumber. And the other thing is that the Karate framework writes similar JSON files. I know that you had Peter Thomas here from Karate Labs before. So yeah, we use Karate as well. So those JSON files can be processed with Cluecumber as well. The initial idea was that we were using another reporting library that we were not entirely satisfied with, because it was just showing us way too much information. Because what you want as a QA engineer is to have a quick feedback about what exactly failed, what passed, why something failed. You want to have all the information that belongs to this failure, like videos, logs, in one place. So yeah, in 2017, I started in a company hackathon to do this, to try this.
Nice.
Because I always wanted to play with Apache FreeMarker, which is the technology behind it. And yeah, and it's still going strong. We're still developing it, and it's used in different companies.
That's awesome. And so, like, was the thought to originally have the tool be open source, or was it going to be like an inner source or like an internal tool?
First, there was no thought at all. It was just an experiment, just a hackathon. But then we saw that this might be useful also for other people. And frankly, I wanted to do that to challenge myself as well, because I wanted to put something out there that I think meets good standards. Because I was very reluctant just to push out the hackathon version. I wanted to make it well tested and well documented and do all those things. And luckily, my company supports open source a lot. We use open source. We support open source projects that we use regularly. So they were pretty much in on this idea from the start.
Nice, nice. So let's take a look at it, right? Let's take a look at Cluecumber in action, and then I'll ask you some more questions.
Of course. So this is the repository. It is under the Trivago repository. And like I said, it comes in two flavors. Cluecumber Maven, which is when you want to generate reports directly in your Maven lifecycle or Gradle lifecycle. And we have Cluecumber Core that can be used in Java or Kotlin code directly to generate those reports in your test framework directly. So you have two ways, of course, because it is a Maven project. It can also be used via the command line or in GitHub Actions. So in the repository, there are two examples for each one. So this is how it would look. I can zoom in a bit. In a typical test framework setting. So this is just a simulation. It's just the main method. But the only thing you have to give to Cluecumber is your directory with your JSON files that your test framework generates, your Cucumber-based or your Karate-based test framework. And then you need to specify a location of the output of the report. And this is all you need, the Cluecumber core builder, and then you can set all the different options that you have. There are tons of options. So the only thing you actually need to generate a test report is this. So you just build and then generate the report. But I want to give it a title as well. And this one I will talk about in a minute. So let me run this quickly. And you see that it's actually pretty quick.
Yeah.
And it generates also a log file with all the options you give it. And then you have the test report. I hope it's well visible here. And this is what I mean. You want to have the essential information about your test suite directly, like this diagram that shows you directly how many tests failed, passed, and were skipped, how many we were running, and of course, when was the test suite started, ended, and how long it takes. Just very basic things. And then what a QA engineer or a project manager would do is just directly check out the failed scenarios. And here we display the first line or two of the failure messages directly. So what exactly failed? So you don't even have to go into the details of the scenario to see why it failed. Of course, you are always free to jump into the scenario. Well, this failed very early on. But you have all the information there. You have your test steps, you have data tables that are there. You have the full exception message that you can also copy to clipboard. So every information you have there can be directly copied and maybe fed into an LLM to analyze this failure. Well, there is not too much to see in this scenario. What's interesting here is that you also see the tags of the scenario, and pretty much everything you see here is another drill down. So if you click on this affiliate tag, you see all scenarios that are tagged with the same.
Nice.
So you always have the overview. You can also just click on the feature and you see which scenarios are in this feature. You also see where this feature is actually located if you need the file itself. And it comes with quite a lot of advanced features as well. You probably see this previous runs button, because this is something that Cluecumber itself does not show you. And this is something that you can specifically turn on or off for Cluecumber. If you want similar scenarios, well, not similar, the same scenarios when they run multiple times, you want to group them or not. So for this, we have also a special page for rerun scenarios. You see here that it says those two scenarios are passed, but if you check the details, you see that this scenario was run twice before and it failed. So you have those all grouped. You can also say, okay, I want all the rerun scenarios to be reflected in my diagrams and the statistics if you want, but typically you rerun scenarios because you want to retry them again to make sure that your failure is not network related or something that is not related to your test scenario. And you also see here in those scenarios that had later runs or previous runs that there were more runs of the same scenario.
Right.
And in the last one, you see that this is the final run after two previous runs. So this is something that was added pretty recently because that was actually requested a lot. But what we also have is a scenario sequence that shows you exactly in which order all the scenarios ran. We have this tag overview, so you can actually see which tag was used the most or what the results were for each tag. So you can see that the failing before tag, for example, failed once. And then you can again drill down and see exactly which scenarios that was tagged with this failed and why. And this we actually use a lot too. The steps overview that shows you all the test steps of all the scenarios. So what you can do here, for example, you can see which test step takes the most time. In this case, it's the I am on login page. So there is room to optimize it probably. Or you can also see which step is used the most, like URL, JSON placeholder URL that comes from, you see, a karate test. And here you can also drill down again and find the test scenarios that use this exact step.
Right. That's awesome. I love
Yeah.
how detailed it is, and I love the visuals on the dashboard.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that went through a lot of iterations over the years.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I guess one question I have is, does it
Sure.
integrate well with CI/CD tools like GitHub Actions or anything else?
Yes, we use it in GitHub Actions. The way we use it typically, which might be a little unconventional, is we use it mostly from makefiles. So all of our test frameworks, most of our build pipelines are using makefiles as the entry point. So the report generation is part of the code that runs the test suite. For the karate tests, the report generation is in the karate runner class, so it belongs to the framework itself. But this is the thing, that this is also why we built it in two flavors, because they're different use cases. But we have used this in Jenkins, we have used this in Google Cloud Run, and we have used this in, of course, GitHub workflows. So all works. The only thing you need to have is some space somewhere to store those reports, because we keep those reports for a specific period of time, so we can also have the history, and we can see, okay, this started failing, I don't know, yesterday at 5 p.m. So we store those.
Awesome. And is Cluecumber also good for very large test suites? Think like enterprise level test suites.
Absolutely. Yeah, this was also a feature request that someone had whose test suite was so large that the JSON files were gigabytes.
Oh.
And for this, we actually integrated some caching mechanisms to deal with those test suites that are super large. I mean, ours is about 400 test cases max, which is also a lot of data, because the attachments that belong to a test failure, like images and videos and logs and all of this, it's all stored by Cucumber in the JSON files. So this was a pretty big challenge to deal with those. And the report generation is actually a multi-step process. Maybe I could, if you have a large file in the JSON, this is stripped out of the JSON files first and saved as a real file, and only the reference is kept in the JSON. So we are dealing with this by just stripping out all the large attachments first, and then generating the reports, and then having those references to the files in the report. So this makes a big difference. Also, all the results, all the calculations that are necessary for those statistics are cached. So they're only done once per run of Cluecumber. So there is actually a lot going on in the background.
Nice.
Yeah, we
Nice.
also have like those quality of life things like a tree view that shows you the actual structure of your test suite, where those tests are located. And of course, a dark mode, which is stored on your system. Maybe just one more thing about the attachments.
Okay.
Because here you see that we have, of course, the exception messages, but we also support all forms of attachment. Like we can have different links in HTML. We can have, of course, the screenshots. We can have video references. So even if you use a test grid that is not on premise and you only have a URL to a video file of the test run, you can still see it like an attachment in your report. And lots of stuff like this. And of course, everything you see here, like showing the hooks and showing and extending all the attachments, this is all options that you can set when you generate the report. Yeah, for example, here, if I show you, you actually see that we have a lot of different customization options here. You can set the logo, you can set the pass failed and skipped colors. You can actually attach your own CSS file too. So this is something that users also requested. They wanted to make this more fit for their company colors. So yeah, that is the thing.
Awesome.
Oh, I can. Sorry, didn't
Yeah,
want
I
to
was wondering.
interrupt you.
So you mentioned that you use Apache to build this. Are there any? What's the full tech stack?
The full tech stack, yeah, we're using Apache FreeMarker to build that. So the full tech stack is first we parse those JSON files with JSON, Google JSON. We use an extension to JSON, which is also open source, called JSON Fire. And we use that to process all the statistics and feed them back into our JSON structure. So we actually have our own POJOs, our own data classes that enrich the information we get from those files, from those JSON files with all the statistics. So we can also have all the cross-linking and the drill down. And then we have those HTML templates, well, not HTML, but FreeMarker templates. And in those FreeMarker templates, we have a lot of placeholders and logic. And so FreeMarker brings those templates and the data classes together and generates the final report.
Nice.
And yeah, to build Cluecumber, it's all Maven based because I'm a big Maven fan. We have regular fights about this. I'm always on the Maven side when people want to use Gradle. But this is how it is. And this was also a big challenge to write this as a Maven plugin because it's not that straightforward. It's not that easy to do that. But we have a thing that works super well, super fast, is pretty much impossible to break now, even if your JSON files are broken or have some glitches because of some network issues that they were not coming over the net fully. This will not disturb the report generation.
Yeah. And what has the community response been for Cluecumber?
The community response has been pretty good, actually. I mean, Cluecumber is not a project like, I don't know, the karate framework with thousands of stars. The project has 281 stars over the course of its lifetime. Yeah, this is the graph. So it's still going up. And we're still getting feature requests and sometimes even bug reports. But the project is kept alive and is alive and kicking because we are using that ourselves for many, many teams in Trivago. So if we want to see something, a new feature in there, we also directly build it ourselves. And then,
Yeah.
of course, the community has it as well. And
Nice.
the other way around, of course, as well. I mean, there have been external contributors with very nice features, like also internal contributors, people who just start getting involved in open source and want to have a nice project to start with. They can, of course, internally also submit some code or some features or updates to the documentation. That happened also. This list might not seem super large, but most of the features came out of discussions with the community, also at test conferences and developer conferences, where people from other companies approached us and said, hey, we're using this tool that you built and we would like to have this feature. And then we talk about it, and then it can also happen that we build it because we think it's useful. So the overall response to the project has been really, really nice. I mean, sometimes, as other maintainers probably said before, it's not that easy, especially if you need to turn down a feature request, which is way too specific and way too use case driven of a single person. So it wouldn't make sense to others. But if it makes sense to more than one person, then we might build it and put a feature flag in there to turn it on or off. Yeah, this
Nice.
happened with the reruns. This happened also with things like should skipped scenarios be considered failures or not? Because this is an ongoing discussion also in the Cucumber community. If scenarios are skipped, how should we count them? Are they skip scenarios? Are they failures? Would we have to fix them? Are they deliberately skipped? So Cluecumber also gives you the option to decide what you want to do with those.
Gotcha. And so I guess like a question that's popping in my head now is, how do you see the role of test reporting evolving, especially, like now?
It is definitely easier if you look at raw data. If you just take something like server logs and you feed them to ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or whatever you use, GitHub Copilot, of course. How could I forget? Then it can be really, really nice to find out what the root cause is. But still, there's a place for test reporting, because for humans, going through a log file or copying and pasting log files to LLMs or having conversations, it is still slower than just checking the test report and seeing, okay, we had 9 failures. Oh, I see why. Or you see, okay, we had 3 failures because of this exception. So it's still a useful thing. We can, of course, use it, and we do use it in combination. But for human eyes, it's very nice that the test reports from various projects in our company look exactly the same. So everybody knows instantly where to look for what. And also, depending on if you are working in back-end testing or front-end testing here at Trivago, even then the reports look the same because we use a Cucumber Selenium-based framework for front-end tests and Karate for the back-end tests. And luckily, those two have the same format. So even people who switch between those two disciplines can just work with it directly. Oh, yeah, and for Trivago apps as well, the apps team is using Cluecumber as well. So even then, now we have those, we have web, we have apps, and we have backend, and all can work with this. But
nice.
Who knows? Maybe we will have AI functionality in Cluecumber as well one day. I mean, we are experimenting a whole lot with all the different LLMs, with agentic AI, with MCP. So we're doing a lot there.
Yeah.
So there are also a lot of ideas based around test reporting.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's awesome.
And this is also just one puzzle piece of reporting and monitoring. I mean, this is very helpful, but we have more as well. We have, of course, monitoring. We have, we use Kibana, Grafana for large-scale historic data. And to bring this all together, there, of course, AI can be super helpful to just connect the pieces, especially agentic AI, that we can say, okay, this failed in the report. Here you find all the information. Here you find the historic data. When did it start failing and why?
Yeah. Nice. I love it. So as we get ready to wrap up here, I don't see any questions from the audience. So I guess, is there a roadmap for Cluecumber, or is it just a matter of community contribution requests? If you want your screen, I can always ping it back.
It's okay. I think we have seen seen more than enough. The roadmap is, of course, to have it up to date with the developments of Cucumber and Karate, and whatever happens there, not break anything that is working, which is super important.
Yes.
And yeah, of course, we are finding new issues, new things that we can improve. The community finds new things that we can improve, or they can contribute. So it never stops. That's why it's been going strong for 9 years almost.
Wow, that's awesome. And so, what's the best or biggest lesson you've learned from open source?
Patience. I think that is one big lesson. No, but seriously, talking to people who have pressing issues sometimes, and send you friendly reminders all over to fix it or to add a feature, that really teaches you something about communication and communicating nicely. But it also taught me and the team a lot about clean code, about documentation, just about how to make the start for people that are new to it easier. And yeah, and it feels really nice to know that a project that you created is out there and people are using it.
Yeah.
That is really
That's
cool.
awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Benjamin, for coming on and chatting to us about Cluecumber. If you're interested in Cluecumber, be sure to check out the repository at gh.io/Cluecumber and have fun generating your test reports. They're so detailed. I'm so impressed by it's such a specific problem, but it's a very good solution. And I can see why it's been around for 9 years. So, last question for you, Benjamin, is what's your favorite open source tool that you didn't build?
Oh, wow. I think right now it has to be karate. Yeah, I could probably talk another hour about how we use it and why we think it's
Right.
a cool thing.
Yeah.
But this really is another kind of niche thing that solves a problem in a very elegant way. So
Yeah.
I love that.
And look like we have a last minute question pop in. What's a cucumber test?
Oh, if you heard about the term BDD, behavior driven development,
Mhm.
Cluecumber is a technical solution that can be used in the BDD context. So it has given when then lines as test scenarios in plain English, and those sentences can then be connected to test code. So what you see in the report is those plain English test steps, which makes
Mhm.
it very easy to follow what's happening. So that's a cucumber test in a nutshell.
Nice. So essentially, it's a way to describe how your software should behave in plain English.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's
That
what a
was,
cucumber
that was
test
an
is.
even better explanation than
Yeah, so that's what a cucumber test, and then Cluecumber gives you clues into those tests
exactly.
by like generating nice reports and dashboards that we saw today. But this chat was amazing, Benjamin. Thank you so much again for coming on. Thank you all for joining, and we will see you next week for another Open Source Friday. Hope you have a great day. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.